Hello, I'm 𝗬𝗵𝗿𝗶𝗴, founder and CTO of TechIDManager. Are we live? Let me ask my little minion in the background.
Don't see it yet, but that doesn't mean it's not.
We'll give it a second here. You can watch me like do my jazz hands while I wait to make sure we're all live. I clicked all the buttons, but clicking all the buttons doesn't always make it happen because there are lots of buttons to click. Lots of things that have to be connected. So, we'll give it a second here. Yay, I got the thumbs up. So that means we're live. And y'all got to hear my drumming skills. All right, so this is the live once a month public demo of TechIDManager. This is targeted at people who maybe have seen TechIDManager, read the website, know something about it, or you're just curious what TechIDManager is and how it does privileged account management, secrets management for MSPs. So we're going to do who I am, why this product exists, like me talking, and then we're going to show like some overview and some philosophical talk about why TechIDManager works the way it does and some security stuff, and then I'll show the product working, and then we'll have at the end Q&A. Clearly and honestly though, if you have questions at any point, just type them in the chat, which I can see over there, and I'll answer them. All right, if I'm not going to get to them shortly. So I'm 𝗬𝗵𝗿𝗶𝗴, founder and CTO of TechIDManager. I got a computer engineering degree many years ago. I worked in software all over the world. I did industrial automation or business systems. Worked in Germany and Switzerland and the US. Did software that went to Malaysia. Worked all over the place. And then for 12 years, I was the head of a development wing attached to an MSP. I wrote software for the MSP's internal processes. I wrote external software, business systems, contracted software in all different kinds of places. For 12 years, I did that. And in those 12 years, I saw security go from something that nobody cared about to something everybody was hyper-focused on, specifically at MSPs. And more recently, MSPs have become this real target space for hackers, because if you hack an MSP, you can often get all of their clients. So in that transition of security, and still continuing today, one area that I noticed that was completely missed at the MSP I worked with was privileged account management. That account that a technician uses when they access one of the MSP's clients was one shared account, and you just told somebody the password. That had some real security issues. One, you couldn't revoke somebody's access. From a security compliance perspective, you didn't know who did what because you didn't have accountability and traceability. So in 2017, 2018, I read a bunch of cybersecurity guidelines and frameworks and looked to fix this problem for that MSP. And what I found in PCI, SOC 2, HIPAA, NIST, CMMC, Cyber Essential, Cyber Guidelines, Cybersecurity 8, all these cybersecurity frameworks, they all said the same thing when it came to account management and privileged accounts. An account should belong to a person, and you should never share that account. So what this means for an MSP is that for each of your technicians at each of your client locations, each of your client networks, you need a unique account for that technician. So if you have, let's say, 10 technicians and 100 clients, that's 1,000 accounts you need to create. Rights you need to set on 1,000 accounts, because those cybersecurity guidelines also say you should use least privilege access. So if a technician should only be accessing backup machines, that's all they should have permission to access. You also have to create those accounts, and you have to rotate passwords on those accounts and keep those accounts safe on a regular basis. If you try to do this as an MSP for unique accounts for all your technicians, you try to do it manually, it becomes completely untenable. It is too many accounts to create, too much effort and overhead to rotate passwords, and it just falls by the wayside, and you end up with these stale, unprotected accounts or these shared accounts. There are some things you can do with the shared accounts, like put passwords in secure locations, things like that. But even those have some issues, which we'll talk about later. It really comes down to the need for traceability, accountability, and security means you really do need unique accounts everywhere someone needs access. So back to the history of TechIDManager. In 2019, I looked around and couldn't find anything that would help an MSP do this. So I quit that job. I started Ruffian Software and rewrote TechIDManager to specifically do privileged account management for managed service providers under the paradigm that all cybersecurity say an account should belong to a person, and you shouldn't share that account. You should stop sharing admin accounts. All right. So how do we do this? Well, we automated everything that the security framework says to do around privileged accounts. We automate creating the accounts. We automate managing those accounts. We automate setting rights on those accounts. We automate rotating credentials on those accounts. We automate all of that. And we do all of that with some serious cryptography and cryptology so that we can guarantee only the technician that should see those credentials can see those credentials. It's really about asymmetric encryption, the same RSA encryption that protects all of the internet's transactions we use to protect your privileged credentials to access your clients. Very safe, very powerful. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is, let me share my screen here. What you can see here, this is the tech client. Enter a passphrase to get logged in. And this tech client has a private key that is specific to me as a technician stored on this computer. And that is the key that's encrypted on this computer also. That is the key that lets me have access to my credentials. Every line here, let me hide my details on that. Every line here is a credential the TechIDManager has made for me or maintains for me as a technician for this MSP called 𝗦𝗵𝗿𝗶𝗴. Like the name? I love the name. So let's talk about using these credentials. All different kinds of credentials here. Let's talk about using one. So to use these credentials, you bring up your remote connection tool. No matter which one it is, we integrate with all of them. Screen Connect, ConnectWise Control, VSA, LogMeIn, PC Anywhere, RDP, even multiple layers deep of these tools we integrate with. So as a technician, you got to the spot in your day where you need to log into a client network and do something. So you need a username and a password to get logged in. You need a credential. In order to find this credential as a technician, bring up Tech Client. All these lines here could have 100, 400, 1,000 lines. These are all the places I have accounts. I want to find the account that I want to use right now. So I click search. This search button went out on my computer, looked at all the windows I had open, and made an intelligent guess about what set of credentials I need right now to access what I have open. It found this Jeep credential, which is the one I want, because that's the Jeep domain I'm trying to log into. I could copy the password, I could copy the username and paste them in there, but even easier, I'm just going to send them both or tell it to inject my credentials. I then tell it where to inject my credentials, and the tech client is going to inject my username, inject my password, and get me logged in so that as a technician, I can move on with my day. 3 button clicks, super simple, super easy. The important things to remember here is this is an account unique to me. Password that changed sometime in the last 24 hours, and everything I do on this system is specifically attributed to me. And you can see here that I, in the task manager, under users, I am _black.mit-admin. That is an account with my first name, last name, and company name on it. Automatically created by TechIDManager's agents for me, maintained for me with rights that are specific to me. Make sense? There are several really good benefits that might not be intuitively obvious to the most casual observer about using a unique account. If a technician knows that they're using a unique account to them, they know that everything is logged and accounted to them. There's no hiding behind any anonymity. It's a real big problem on the internet. You know, people will post angry things on Reddit and Facebook and internet forums because they're hiding behind a shield of anonymity. But if you know it's your username, you are specifically accountable for everything you do, that raises your level of professionalism and awareness on what this account is used for. Another not so obvious benefit is because they're rotating credentials every 24 hours on it, somebody's not going to stick that shared admin account and shared admin password in some script file and expect it to do something over and over and over, because tomorrow it's not going to work because we're automatically changing that password for that account every 24 hours. That means that people are going to take that extra step and figure out the correct way with either a managed service account or something like that, which we also do managed service accounts, to do that thing. And because you've raised that level of awareness and that subconscious level of, yes, this is me, everything I'm doing is traced, you're going to stop all kinds of bad behaviors. Not that you have them, but like, say the Uber hack last year. The main inflection point for that hack was when a administrative username and password was found in a script file, is what I read. And that made the hack much more worse than it could have been otherwise. If the person who wrote that script and put that shared username and shared administrative password in there knew it was their username and their password, wouldn't have happened. They'd have been like, I can't put my name there. It's too obvious. They'd have to use a shared. Anyway, so back to TechIDManager and off my little side rant. This is the tech client. Easily, you saw how I used 3 button clicks. I found the credentials, entered them, used a password that changed sometime in the last 24 hours, And just as a technician, I can easily move through my day, and finding and using the privileged account that is mine for accessing the client's network is not a problem. It's super fast. We can do that for all types of access to all types of client networks. We can do that for domains, which you just saw with this Jeep domain account. We can do it for Azure domains, like this line. You can even do it for local computers. If you have a work group set up or you have some local computers you want to give technicians specific access to, we can make and maintain unique local accounts on a computer for someone. That's the way you should do. You should make unique accounts for everyone everywhere. But we realize there are valid business reasons, valid licensing reasons, and valid technological reasons why you are sometimes forced to share an account between different technicians, such as service accounts. We can take over a service account, rotate the password every 24 hours, set the service entries for it, and then let some technicians that you choose see that service password in case they need to log on with it and do something. We can do this for all types of accounts. We can do this for auto logon accounts, which is another pretty significant technical limitation for some older software. We also do managed and just-in-time accounts. Managed accounts are accounts that are there, they work offline, you can always walk up to the machine and log in with it, even if that machine's not connected to the internet. We also do just-in-time accounts, such as this one for 𝗂𝗵𝗿𝗁. This account, at some point in the past, the manager said, Martin, you, the technician, are allowed to have this account on this network with these permissions. But that account only exists when you request it and only exists for a short duration of time. So as a technician, when I want to use my 𝗂𝗵𝗿𝗁 account, I select it in the tech client, I click enable. TechIDManager in the next minute is going to go create that account if it doesn't exist. If it does exist, it's going to enable it. It's going to set the rights specific to what a manager said I could have, and it's going to set a brand new password on the account, encrypt it, and send it back so that just I can see it. That account will stay enabled for some duration of time. By default, it is 2 hours. After that 2 hours, the account will automatically be disabled. All the rights and permissions will be removed from that account, and a password will be set on that account, which is never told to anyone. So that means that that account still exists for traceability and accountability reasons. That same account, when I as a technician want to access this network again, and I click enable again, that same account will be re-enabled. So you get continuity of logging between accesses for a technician on a client network, and the rights will be re-added. But when I'm not using it, when I'm not actively using it, that account is disabled, no rights, and a password that's never been told to anybody. So any of the hashes that were anywhere where it was used are invalid. It's still there for traceability, but it's as dead as possible and can't be used. And we can see here, before I can even finish explaining it, that account is now enabled, the little green plus here. It means I can use that account wherever I need or wherever I want that account gives me access. So we just talked a bunch there. And what really that means is we have a smorgasbord of options to cover privileged account management at MSPs for domains, Azure tenants, and individual workstation computers in a variety of different ways to help the MSP. That is our goal. We want to help MSPs do privileged account management. In addition to that privileged account management for places we can create and maintain accounts, there are places that you just have to put a password in, you have to manually make the account. And for that, we have what we call vault passwords. You might say, hey, you do privileged account management? We can tie everything SSO or SAML into those accounts. Why do we need other passwords? Well, there are lots of reasons. Camera systems, phone systems, firewalls, SaaS software that clients give you access to that you can't just make a number of accounts in. You need some way to manage securely those passwords. You might say, Martin, there are tons of password vaults on the market. Why are you bringing a password vault to market? Well, that is something we also thought about. I looked, when I started this product in February 2019, I was like, there are tons of password vaults out there. What MSPs really need are unique accounts. We need privileged account management. We need to create and maintain those accounts. And we chose to do that with this zero visibility storage, so we can't see any of those. It's a very secure methodology. After a while, some of our clients came to us and said, hey, some of our partners and said, hey, we like the way that you were doing zero visibility storage for credentials and PAM. Phenomenal. It gives us that level of security, makes all the security compliance stuff we need. But we have these other credentials we need to keep and maintain, and we'd like to use that same zero visibility storage. Can you look at bringing a password vault to market? And I, as the CEO and CTO, was like, that's there are lots of things in that market. Why do we need to compete? So I looked around and I looked at all the password vaults out there, and they all kind of have the same issue when it comes to sharing accounts, sharing credentials, or sharing information between people. There are some cryptographic guarantees that they don't make on who can, who can't read that information. There's a lot of marketing buzz, a lot of words. You can actually get lost in all the marketing talk about encryption and shared password vaults and all that kind of stuff. But doing deep dives on it, I found a problem. And clients asked me to fix it. I saw the problem. I fixed it. So that's why we have a password vault, a vault's password. Vault passwords. Getting kind of tongue-tied today. Let me get a drink real quick. Kind of tongue-tied. Earl Grey, in case anybody wants to know. I love tea. I drink tea all the time. It's phenomenal. This happens to be Earl Grey. I think I had Irish breakfast earlier. It's really good. So, the vault passwords. Because MSPs need both privileged account management and to store and share credentials between technicians for various reasons, this is what I brought to market. And what it is you have vaults which have in them a series of passwords. The vault is the cryptographic entity that you have to pass keys around for. We have workflow for that, and I'll show you, to get information between technicians. Vaults are also the level in which you can show or hide the metadata about the credentials. So you can see here, this particular vault, this particular password, I'll show you the details on it. It's in a vault named test. I have the key to that, I can see it. There's another vault here named fourth. I can see that the vault exists. I can see it has a password in it named fourth and the site's for fifth. The name of the vault is David, but I don't have cryptographic access. I don't have the key to decrypt the username or password that's in this vault or the TOTP that's stored for this vault. We did this for a real specific reason. You can have a choice on whether you allow your technicians to see a vault or not see it. And you have a choice on whether you allow them to get the key to decrypt the credentials in that vault or not. We did this because when we talked to MSPs about vaults and vault passwords and sharing credentials between technicians, a common problem that people mentioned was they would have a vault system for passwords. They would have passwords hidden from some technicians and shown to others, and some passwords that were hidden from a technician that might need to be accessed. The technician would go and look, and they wouldn't see that the password existed, wouldn't see anything there because it's hidden from them. They would then go and reset the device, make a new account, make a new credential, and then put that in the vault right beside the credential that they couldn't see. So all of a sudden, they ended up with 4 or 5 entries for a firewall password for a firewall that had been reset 4 times because when technicians went to work on it, they couldn't see that the credential existed. So we've chosen to give you the ability to let technicians see that a credential exists without the ability to see the username or password. And then they can come to you and say, hey, I need access to this vault to see this exists. And you can give them access to it, and then you can revoke access later. All up to you. This is done with the same zero visibility storage mechanism that all of our credentials are done with. That means that we, even though your technicians can both see the credentials, we can't see them. We can make the cryptographic guarantee that only the people with the key, which is not us, can see them. That's a lot of talking. But that gives you a complete solution for creating access, unique technician access to your clients' networks, for technicians to store their own private passwords, and for you to have vaults where you can share vaults of passwords between technicians. This is a complete solution for password and credential and secrets management inside of an MSP. We've just brought the vault passwords to market. It's currently included with TechIDManager, and we hope that you try it out and like it. All right. So that's kind of the overview of the tech client. Now that you've seen how it works, you've seen we have the same We have the same searching. If you have like a website open, like Netflix, and you search, it'll find just the credentials that match the criteria of the things you have Windows open for. Whether the remote connection tools or internet browsers or even specific tools. If it thinks that you might want this credential, it's going to show it to you. Works very well. As you can see, I actually use that for all of my credentials, which is really which makes it the product that I want. It makes it very useful. So that's the tech client. How does that tech client fit in with the rest of TechIDManager? I'll give you a quick system overview here. We'll talk about the management console and some deployment options. And that'll be a pretty full overview of TechIDManager. So you've seen the tech client. That's what we just covered. That's what technicians use. It's on their computer. And that means that on their computer is this very important private key. This is the piece that makes it zero visibility. We use asymmetric encryption to encrypt everything and guarantee only the person that should see it can see it. We don't store any credentials. No protected information is stored unencrypted or transmitted unencrypted. And when you get really deep into the geekdom that is cybersecurity and security compliance frameworks, you'll find that several of those cybersecurity compliance frameworks say that HTTPS by itself is not sufficient for transmitting passwords and credentials. It's my little soapbox right there. Just got sidetracked. Anyway, what it means is you have to have external encryption, which is what we have here for transmitting all those credentials and storing them. So we have a private key and a public key. The technician is the only person that has that private key. They can export that. They can back it up. They can even use tech client from two computers with the same private key by transferring it. And when they bring up the mobile app, when they put the tech client on their mobile device, they have to transfer that private key from the tech client to their computer or to their smartphone. That's done with a series of QR codes you scan so that we're never in charge of that. The technician is the only one in charge of their key. One of our founding principles is we don't keep keys. Next piece is the management console. The management console is where managers go to determine who has what kind of access, where they have it, what vaults they have access to, what rights they have on various client sites. There are a bunch of grouping policies that are large and cross-tenant to help you assign these rights to clients. You can specify that a technician has access to 1 client, 2 clients, 7 clients, all of them, some subset of a client. Different technicians have different rights on different places. Lots of options there. This is in the cloud. We can host this on AWS for you, or this whole project is self-hostable by you if you want to be in complete charge of all, if you want complete control of all the data, both electronically and physically. That's an option. The third piece are the agents. There are agents that you install anywhere that you need to create and maintain accounts. We have agents that run on local computers to make local accounts. Agents run on domain controllers to make domain-based accounts. We have agent that runs an Azure AD to make Azure or Microsoft Intra ID or Office 365 accounts. And all the rights are individually settable by technician across all those places. They're also settable in some large groups. The agents are very specifically there to create the accounts automatically for the technicians. These are not manual accounts that you've made that we take over. We automatically make those accounts with the correct rights. We set the rights specific to what the technicians should have on the technician's account. We manage that account to make sure it stays enabled and protected, and we also rotate every password for every technician every 24 hours, everywhere. Be something different and unique. There was an article years ago that said something on the headline along the lines of, don't rotate your passwords anymore. Well, if you read the details on that article, it actually said, don't force people to rotate passwords that they have to remember on a regular basis because they'll fall into bad patterns and easy to replicate passwords. What that article did not say was don't rotate passwords. Rotating passwords, if you look at any news article, any cybersecurity thing, the first thing that happens whenever a breach occurs is they tell you to rotate your admin passwords or rotate your password. Because that is the basic core super secure thing to do. And on all these breaches that you'll hear about in the news, for AT&T just recently, their Verizon, like they've all had breaches recently. And they all say, rotate your passwords. But then you'll also notice there's this delay of between 3 days and 3 months in some cases before they've told you a breach exists. Internally, it could have been just as long. A hacker could have access for 3 days, 10 days, 100 days before somebody notices the malicious activity, especially with the more subtle hackers who are really gaining access to sell that access and not gaining access to do something malicious. Imagine the security you could have if you knew that every admin account into your client's networks for every one of your technicians was automatically rotating that password every 24 hours so that if a hacker did get access and was one of these malicious hackers that tries to like just sell that access later, they're automatically locked out an average of 12 hours later before anything bad has happened. You should still have a SOC. You should still have a SIM. Those are clear things you should have. But there's an additional layer of protection by just rotating the passwords. Imagine if you see that one of your clients got hacked by some other mechanism, and then they tell you got to rotate that password. You can be like, I've already rotated all my passwords 7 times for every technician since you had this hack. If you're co-managing something like that, or you have a bad actor. Anyway, that's my password rotation box. So the fourth piece here, back on track, is the asymmetric encryption keys. Like the public key, that is what we pass around, just like PKI or the internet. Public keys are always given away. We use that key to encrypt the information, the password that we rotate and we make up. We encrypt it for the specific technician that should see it. So when TechIDManager creates an account and rotates the password for me, it's encrypted with my public key. That means that only my private key on my computer is the only place that information can actually be decrypted and then be visible to the technicians. This is a pretty significant storage and security mechanism. All right, so let's look at this management console. The management console here, make sure I'm logged in still. Yep. This is the management console. We're going to cover a couple things here. One, we'll talk about how you assign rights to various technicians, and then we'll talk about the vaults and what they look like inside TechIDManager. Inside TechIDManager, there are technicians. There are groups of technicians. There are agents. There are groups of agents. There are rights, and there are groups of rights. And there are triplets. The triplet is a combination of a tech group, a right group, and an agent group. When you make a triplet that connects those 3, that means that you are giving an account to those techs with those rights on those agents. I have a little picture that can make this a little bit easier to understand. You have all the technicians in your system. You make a group of those. You have all the agents. You can make a group of those, be it by client, by pod, by tier, however. And you make a group of rights. These rights can be backup rights. They can be full access rights. They can be just the rights that a particular pod of people should have. And then you connect those with a triplet. So these techs get an account created on these agents, and that account has these rights. You can have different groupings, different triplets, as many as you want, as complicated as you want. And you can have an overlap in them. So in this case, because we have overlap in this tech group, these rights group, and these agent groups, this green technician's account on this green domain has more rights than the green technician's account on the orange domain. Then the green technician's account has more rights on the green domain than the orange technician's account on the green domain. This is a very important concept when it comes to least privileged access. If you are in any way sharing an admin account between technicians, you are not using least privileged access, because not every technician should have the same access. Some technicians are level 1, some are level 2, some are level 3, some have more skills than others. Some should not have accounts on places they've never accessed and they never intend to access. And if a shared admin account that they have access to in a password vault doesn't do that. Really, you need unique accounts everywhere the technician has access. And this privileged account management, the rights management, is an important piece of that when it comes to doing cybersecurity compliance and things like that. So what is that? It's like we were talking about. We have techs here. Let's look at this, this example tech group here. These techs are in it. And then that tech group is tied to an agent group, tied to a rights group in this triplet, which gives them access that they should have. Like these level 1 techs get these level 1 rights on these level 1 domains. You can set up a lot of different access here. So the vaults, you create a vault. A vault is then, let's look at this test vault. This vault has in it these 4 credentials. This vault is by default visible to everyone. And this is the sharing of the key between technicians and the visibility. So we can see here that Martin, Emily, Test Martin, and Martin Test, and David, and Taylor all share the key, all have a copy of the key. It's been shared with them for access to this vault. It means they can see everything about it. They can change stuff about it. We can also see here that this vault is visible to most people, but it's hidden from other people. So most people can see what's in it. They can see the metadata. They can't see their username or password because they can't decrypt that, but they can see the metadata about the credential. Who it's for, what the description is on it, but they can't see the username and password. They can't cryptographically get that. And that cryptographically protected information is important because God forbid somebody gets hacked or we get hacked, everybody gets hacked. Like, it's a big soapbox of mine. Sooner or later, Every vendor gets hacked. It's happened to SolarWinds, Kaseya, ConnectWise, Datto. Everybody gets hacked sooner or later. What's important is limiting the scope of that, having SOCs in places, SIMs in places, other protections internally to limit the scope of a hack. But it happens when information gets lost. We can know for sure that any information stolen from us does not include your credentials because they're all encrypted with keys that we don't keep. Only you have the keys to your data. Only you have the private asymmetric encryption keys to decrypt your data, which is super, super important when it comes to actual security and knowing where your assets live, where your protected data lives, what type of storage your protected data has. It's very important. And unfortunately, step off the track here, a little personal side note, there's a lot of marketing buzz about using encryption, the way it's used, and a lot of it is meant to snow you under and not be actual protection for your data. Really, I was thinking about this last night. I'm getting way off track here, but I'm gonna keep going with it because it's my demo. I can do what I want. I was sitting around last night and I was thinking about Albert Einstein. And Albert Einstein was a genius guy, very, very smart guy, taught us a lot about relativity and a lot of other things. But like one thing that really helped him progress his own thoughts and learn was performing thought experiments. He did thought experiments about all kinds of things, like if you're going in a car at the speed of light and you turn a flashlight on, what happens? Or if you have a couple paradoxes, like if you have light bouncing between two mirrors and you start moving the mirrors, does the light move at the same speed? Is that usable as a clock? Anyway, so the thought experiment is an important tool by which you can evaluate how secure your data is. And I was thinking last night in a thought experiment, and I have this thought experiment when it comes to storing your data and where your data is stored, who can access it. When you go to give access to your data to someone else, what do you have to give them is a real good thought experiment. If you have a documentation system or a password vault, and the only thing that you have to do for someone is create them an account, a username and password, and they can go to a brand new Windows computer that has nothing on it, and they can open a web browser, and they can enter that username and password, and they can see credentials in plain text. That means that the other side of that web page was all somebody on the other end of that, on the server that web page is served from, is also able to see those credentials in plain text, no matter what the marketing buzz says. It's a very important point about the thought experiments that you can do on your own tools to see what kind of access vendors have to your data, and then to extend that to what type of damage can be done if a vendor gets hacked. In the case of TechIDManager, we can take that thought experiment and we can say, well, if you give someone an account, a technician an account in TechIDManager, you create them. The next thing that has to happen is they have to install the tech client on their computer physically and create their encryption keys. Then you as a manager, then they upload the public side of that encryption key, and you as a manager say, all right, I give you access to something. Like you give them access to accounts, then accounts are created, encrypted with their public key and sent back to them. They can decrypt them on just that computer. With the vaults, this goes one step further. Like if we look at Emily's vault here, we can see that currently only Emily has access to that. If I would like access to Emily's vault, I have to request that Emily share that vault with me. And I request that share. Now, Emily, since she is the only one that has access to the private key for that vault, next time that she opens the tech client, she'll get a tab here that says requested shares. And it will say that a manager has requested she share that encryption key with me. She can approve that request, and then that key will get transferred to me, cryptographically secure by using my private key, anyway, whatever, my public key. Then I will have access to see those credentials. It is a very important thought that to finish that thought experiment out, you can't get access to this information from just a web page. You have to be given the key from someone else who already has access. We, as vendors, for all this privileged information, can't read it. We don't have the cryptographic ability to decrypt any of the information you are storing with us, any of the credentials you're storing with us, any of the actual protected data. What can we see? we can only see the name, the site, and the basic description, which is the metadata that you can choose to make visible or hidden from anyone, any technician. So we have both curtains and cryptology to protect the vaults. Anyway, so that was my little thought experiment I performed while sitting around on the porch watching the stars go overhead last night. Thought I'd share that with you. That is pretty much we didn't talk about deployments. That's the other thing we're going to talk about. So, that's the tech client management console, the vaults, and now we'll talk some about the agents. Agents are deployed where you want to create and maintain accounts. We have lots, like we said with the tech client, when you saw there are all this variety of different types of accounts: local accounts, domain accounts, Azure accounts, unique accounts, shared accounts, lapse accounts, just-in-time, managed accounts, whole bunch of smorgasbord of options you can put together in any way to suit your policies and procedures. We have some examples here. The example that we think is best is this kind of example right here, where you have either a domain controller or intra ID, a bunch of computers connected to it that are laptops that may or may not be on, and a bunch of wired computers. We suggest that you deploy our PM agent to all those places. Domain controller, the Azure tenant, each of the wired servers is more optional, but each laptop, and give people access to the things that they need access to. And then that means that each technician will have a domain account, an Azure account, and accounts directly on each of the individual computers. That way, if a computer gets unjoined from the domain, has some sort of network card issue, the technicians can still log directly into that Windows computer, whether it's joined the domain or not joined the domain. They can also use their domain account to log in and do stuff that might require that kind of access, or their Azure account if they need to do that kind of thing. This is the deployment that is in line with what is best, what most cybersecurity frameworks say we shouldn't share accounts. Because of, as we talked about earlier, we know that there are reasons why you sometimes are forced to share accounts. So we have this kind of deployment example here, which we fully support also, where you want to deploy one of our lapse or password rotation agents to a machine to share the local admin account on that. We can totally do that too. Any of the admin accounts that you as an MSP need, we can help you do access, we can help maintain, protect, and all those kind of things. Intra, domains, on-prem, multiple domain controllers, Azure tenants connected to multiple domain names, different laptops, computers, wired, backup machines, whatever. All right? There are lots of options in the way you deploy it. We suggest you just to start deploying the agent, deploy the agent everywhere, and make unique accounts for everyone, everywhere. That is what we suggest. So, but we do support a lot of those other limitations that you as an MSP face because of business reasons, technological reasons, or licensing reasons. We'll help you protect those accounts also. All right? So that's kind of a whole tour on TechIDManager with its privileged account management, TechIDManager and the vault passwords, which are cryptographically secure storage that lets you share between technicians by having a mechanism to share keys. We have Windows app, Mac OS app, Android apps, iOS apps to help technicians. The smartphone apps, because we love our field technicians. And I was one of those technicians once who went out in the field, was given a sticky note with 32 characters on it for the password for an admin account that I need to log in and do some work with. Typed in the admin name, 31 characters I typed in of this password, and all of a sudden it wasn't right. So in order to prevent that situation, when you use the mobile app, I wasn't sharing my screen. Whatever. I just pointed at a bunch of stuff on the screen and realized I was no longer sharing the screen. That's okay. I was talking about these deployment examples without showing them. They're here. They're on our website, techidmanager.com, under deployment examples. All kind of there. Anyway, the mobile app, when you look at a password in the mobile app, it breaks it down into large 60-point font, so you can, a field technician can easily not get lost typing it in. All right. So that's kind of the overview. If you want to get started with TechIDManager, right on the front page on TechIDManager, there's Install Today, which will take you to where you can get signed up for an account and then walk you through all the install procedures. We also do white glove installs. So under partner resources, white glove install, if you pick that, that will let you schedule some time to do where we'll get on one of our technical staff, we'll get on a phone call with you, just like a Zoom meeting, and walk you through the installation from absolutely nothing working to everything you need to know, all figured out and working on that call. It takes 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes. We schedule an hour for it. Get you completely set up with a white glove, answer any questions you have, help you figure out what kind of setup, what kind of deployments you want. We're here to help. So those are what we call you to do. That's our call to action, is become a client installer yourself or schedule a white glove install. Those are the two things. And if you have more questions, you can always request a personalized demo and we'll get on a phone call with you and answer all the questions that you have. Dang it. I wasn't showing my screen again, was I? So right on the homepage, there's install today if you want to just go ahead and get started. And under partner resources, there's a white glove install, which is a link to let you schedule an installation. I have got to remember to share and unshare my screen behind me, y'all. Can't believe y'all let me get away with being so terrible about my screen etiquette. All right. So that's TechIDManager. We hope to see you soon. We love our partners. And if you try it out and have any questions and feedback, we're here to help. All right. Thanks for joining us today, y'all. Have a great day.